starting. The audience will
All right.
see it in a moment. All right, it says we're live now. All right, can you see it on your screen?
Yes, I can. It's a weird delay, but I can see it.
Yeah, it is a weird delay, but you can see it. Can you hear both of us? Say something and make sure you can hear both of us.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear both of us in the video.
All right, so everything looks good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna mute the page.
Yeah, mute the video player, and then I guess we can start then. All right, you ready?
All right, Thomas Milburn just said hi, so shout out to him.
All right, so hello everyone. Welcome to the very first Codewars live that I've done in a while. I guess I think I did one of these a couple months ago, but I want to try and do this a little bit more regularly. So maybe not every week, but every so often. And I'm also going to try to bring some other people on so that it's not just me talking, because there's already enough of that on this YouTube channel. And so my friend today is my good college friend Nick. Hello, Nick.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
So Nick currently has a co-op at Oracle. He is a pretty cool dude, and we're gonna solve a couple problems on Codewars today. I think the plan is that we're gonna try and both talk through the problems and figure out different ways of solving them, and then we'll solve them in in a couple different ways to get some different ideas. And then also we are open to questions. If you want to ask questions, it could be about programming, could be about something a little bit more general, whatever you want to be. So we're happy to make this interactive as well. But the main goal is to just solve a couple problems on Codewars. Someone just asked, what's Codewars? That's a great question. So Codewars is a website. You can go on, make a free account, and basically the idea is you can solve these coding challenges. They range from really easy to really hard. There's a lot of different languages up there. We'll be doing Python for today, but there's a lot of different languages that you can choose from. And you can just practice and get better at coding. And the best way to get better at coding, just like anything else, is to practice. And so I highly recommend you go to codewars.com and try out some problems. The problems we do right now will be sourced directly from there, and we'll be solving them on the Codewars website. I'm not sponsored by Codewars, by the way. Maybe one day I might send them an email, but I just happen to really like this website, so I highly recommend it. Okay, should we start with the first one then?
I think that sounds like a plan.
All right, so the first problem, Camelcase Method, says you write a simple method or function called Camelcase that converts strings into Camelcase. And the funny thing, so let me zoom in on this. This is the example. This is not actually Camelcase. This is actually Pascal case. Camelcase is this, right? So when you start with a lowercase letter and all subsequent words or start with a capital letter, that is that's Camelcase. This is Pascal case, and I guess that's what they want. So they should really call the problem Pascal case, but whatever, they'll call it we'll call it Camelcase. And so that's the goal. We want to take this string with multiple words in it, and we want to convert it over. So let's start with that. And I would say, let's see, we'll give it a second to load. The first thing we should probably do, we can look at some of these test cases right here. And what's your initial strategy, Nick? How would you start solving this problem?
Well, I mean, obviously you're looking at the space between each word is going to be your separator, sort of tell you if the next character or the next word's first character, basically you want to check to make sure that's going to be capital. So I guess I would use something where seeing that space to be your trigger to separate each word into its own, I guess, string, capitalize the first letter, and then concatenate all the strings together. That's
okay,
how I would do it.
look for spaces, and then when you see a space, you know that the next word should start with a capital letter. Yeah, that's a good strategy. I have a pretty good idea for a nice one-liner that's actually really simple, but I think it would make a lot more sense to start with a more direct approach, and then I can just throw that in at the end. So, okay, so let's go, and you just have to be careful, because, like, this one, for example, looks like we lost him there for a second. Hopefully he'll come back. I don't know. We want to be careful, because here it starts with a space, whereas here it doesn't. Okay, so looks like we lost him. Let's try again. Oh, I see. Right. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess we didn't. Guess this is not quite bulletproof. Maybe we'll figure out something other than FaceTime for the next one. Oops. Okay, there we go. Just rotate your thing again. Okay, good. Okay, I don't know. Maybe this won't be the most stable calling solution, and we'll figure something else out for the next one, but if it fails, I'll just call you back, so just wait a second, I'll call you back.
No worries.
Alright, so we'll look for, every time we see a space, we'll capitalize the next letter, and then I guess we just have to make sure to capitalize the first letter as well. So let's start with that. So let's go up to our code right here. Okay, so I think what we'll do, the easiest way, let's loop through each character. We'll loop character by character, and we'll say if we see a space, then we'll go to the next character and we'll capitalize it.
Yeah, sure.
So okay, so let's try this. So for each character in the string, we want to, or actually what we want to do, right? We want to look at each character and then the one that comes after it. So we want to use the range version of the for loop.
Right.
Because, okay, so let's do that again. For I in range, so we want to start at 0. Let's go up to length -1. We want to make sure not to go out of bounds, right? Because if we're looking at the current character and the one that comes after it, we don't want to get to the point where we're looking at the last character and then there's no character after it. So we'll go up to length -1, and then we can say something like, if the current character that we're looking at is a space, then we want to set the next character to be a capital letter, and we don't want to include the space at all. So maybe what we'll do, since strings are immutable, maybe we'll start with an empty string and we'll just append to it.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Let's do this. Let's say if it's not a space, then we'll just add, that character, right? So if it's not a space, we'll just add the character that it is because we don't want to touch it. But then we'll say if it is a space, we don't want to add that character. But then what I'm thinking, we'll say otherwise if it is a space, so we don't want to add that character. I'll come back to that in a second. But what I'm thinking is, let's just get a random case right here, and notice that there's this trailing. I think the first thing that we should do is get rid of these leading and trailing spaces, because like here there's a trailing space which we don't need, here there's a leading space which we don't need. So why don't we get rid of those first?
Yeah, I think that's smart.
So what we'll do is we'll say, well, we don't use input, we'll call it I guess we could modify the input string. It's not really good practice, but whatever. So string, I I think it's strip. In some languages it's strip, and in some languages it's trim.
It's strip. Yeah, trim is not really.
Okay, so
it's definitely strip.
Trim is, I guess, Java or something, but
yeah, it's not Python.
Okay, so it's strip. So strip will get rid of the spaces at the beginning and at the end. We obviously don't want to get rid of the spaces in the middle yet because we need to use them to know when to capitalize letters, but we'll strip the string first. And so say hello, it'll get rid of that ending space, and of course we want say hello, right? So the plan, I have an idea. I have one idea for how to go about this, but maybe you have a different idea. So we have to know, like, if we hit a space and we say, okay, the next letter, we want to capitalize that letter, right?
Right.
But I don't think we don't want to just append the next letter capitalized, because then, like, let's say we're at this space right here, and then we were at the space between say and hello, and then we want to make this H be capital. Well, if we appended a capital H, then the next time the for loop goes, we'll be right at that H, and we don't want to duplicate it or anything. So how do you think, if we see a space, what do you think we should do about it?
You really just want to recognize the next string of characters without a space in between is a word, so that the first letter of that string will be capitalized.
Yeah, so you're suggesting that you want to treat each thing with a space between it as a word.
Essentially, I think that makes sense.
Does make okay, so that's actually a different approach than I was thinking.
Okay.
Let's actually here, because now I have 3 different solutions to this problem. So let's do this one. I have an idea for this one. But then we'll do that third one, and then we'll do the one-liner. So basically, here's what I'm thinking. We loop through each one, and we say if it's not a space, let's just say it this way. If we find a space, I'm gonna make this Boolean flag. I'm gonna call it cap, and whatever. It's gonna be a Boolean. And when we find a space, I'm gonna set it to be true. And then if we find something that's not a space, if it's true, that means we need to capitalize that letter. And if it's false, it means that we don't need to. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And by default, do we want cap to be true or false?
You want it to be false until it becomes true.
I think we want it to be true because we want the first letter to be capitalized.
All right. Because in this case, okay.
So here's the thing: if it were actual Camelcase, like real
Camelcase, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, if it were actual Camelcase, you would want it to start as false because you don't want to capitalize the first letter. But here, since it's like Pascal case or whatever, I think we do want to capitalize it.
Yeah, sure. That's all the sample tests show that. So yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so here, let's do this then. We'll say if cap, then. If it's supposed to be capitalized, we'll add that character in upper, and then we just have to make sure to set cap to false. And then otherwise, we'll just add the character as it is without touching it. And then else, if it is a space, we'll set cap to be true, but we won't append the space. So the space won't get appended; it'll get skipped over basically. But we'll set cap to true, so that the next time we see a character, we'll say, "Oh, we need to capitalize it," so we'll capitalize it, and then we'll set cap to false because. Okay, we can move on.
Sure.
Right. All right. I think this will work. I don't know. Let's test it. Let's run the sample test. Oh, maybe we should return the answer. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that could help.
Only if we want it to be useful, but I think we really want it to be useful. So let's return the answer. I got scared for a second there. I was like, "There's no way that these are all wrong," but whatever. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so we miss the last letter, which is absolutely true, right? Because we go up to length -1.
Right, so you have to handle.
Well, actually, no, because see, now we're not comparing the next. But I think the idea before was you would have like this character, and then you'd look at the next character after it. But we're not doing that anymore, so I think we can just.
You can just do length.
Yeah, I think the strategy actually changed. And now, see, we're not using I anymore, we're just using string of I. So you could even change this back to, like, for char in string. But I
Yeah.
think... Alright,
But,
yeah,
I
so
mean,
we passed this, even including, so, like, for this one, they have a bunch of random tests, where it just generates a random test case, and it tests it with their solution and our solution. So this method works. It's, like, really complicated, but it does work.
yeah, I mean, and
So,
that's the beauty of coding. You're gonna have different approaches, whether it be seamless or not.
yeah, there's so many different ways, and I think we should solve this one in 2 other ways. But just to really quickly explain, especially if anyone was confused or if they just joined, basically the idea is you're given an input like this, and you want to convert it into this. It's technically Pascal case, but I think Pascal case might be like a version of Camelcase or something. I don't know, but the point is,
Yeah.
you want to put all of the separate words together and capitalize the first letter of each word like this. And so what we did was we said we want to strip the string, get rid of the leading and trailing spaces because they don't mean anything, and then we loop through each character, or I guess this is each index in the string, and we say if we don't, let's say this one here, we say if we, I'm just going to rearrange this because I think it's just easier to explain. And then I'm going to make this be the else, and then here I'm going to say cap equals true, and then let me get rid of this else. Okay, this is easier to explain. So we're going to look at each index, and we're going to say if the character at that index is a space, then we don't want to include the space, but the next character should be capitalized. So we have this Boolean flag that I called cap, and we set it to be true. We say we do want to capitalize it. So otherwise, if it's not a space, if it's some other character, if it's supposed to be capitalized, we add the capitalized version of that character, and we set cap to be false so that we don't get all uppercase. And then otherwise, if it's not supposed to be capitalized, we just add the original character untouched. And then finally, we return the answer back. So that's one way to do it. It's a pretty simple way of doing it, too.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. But we could do it even better than this. We can do it simpler than this. So let's comment this out and try another solution. So the next solution that I want to try is the one that you were alluding to.
Okay.
And that solution involved looking at the individual words. So like say and then hello were two different words.
Right.
So let's try that. So what we'll do is we'll say words is equal to, so we'll split it at the space, right?
Yeah, I would just say split each string into, I would just make a list of strings, so using the spaces as a separation.
Yeah, so here we go. So if the input's like say hello, it'll be say and then hello. And then we can treat each word separately, and then we can just join them back together at the end. So I think this way is going to end up being even cleaner than the first way. Not that the first way was bad, but it's just another way of doing it. Okay, so for each word, let's do, I don't know. Well, I guess we want to modify, so we have to we'll use the range version. Okay, so for I and range-len words, we'll look at each index in this list, and then we'll determine, we'll change it. And so we'll say words I is equal to, so for each word, we just want to capitalize the first character. So
exactly.
What do you recommend?
Just get the first character from each string, as long as it's not an empty string, and use the dot upper method.
That's a good point about not being an empty string. So I think for split, it won't give you any empty strings. Like if you have multiple spaces in a row, it'll just like ignore them. So like this should handle for leading and trailing spaces. So I don't think we should have to worry about empty strings. But that's a really good point to make, because it's certainly like in other problems, worrying about empty strings could certainly be an issue. So that's a good point. So
something
words,
to be aware of.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good point. So okay, so words in index I will be one of the words like say or hello, and we want to take the first character and convert it to uppercase, and then we can just slice the rest of it.
Okay.
So we just take the first. Whoops! I guess I forgot to turn that on. Okay. We take the first character and we convert it to uppercase, and then we just take everything else. So capital S and then lowercase AY, capital H, lowercase ELLO, whatever. Okay. So okay, fine. So our loop goes through, it updates all the words, and then all we have to do is join them back together into a string.
Right.
And we don't want a delimiter. We don't want like a space or anything. We just want empty like that. Cool. All right, I think this will work. We got string index out of range. Okay. So
we didn't handle the end, did we?
No, I think that what happened was there was a string that was only one character. Like, let me. Well, actually, what was doing this? So it's basic test. It passed.
Yeah. What did it fail?
I'm gonna test this theory. Let's add a test. I think if the input is like A, B, C, the output should of course be A, B, C. Let's see if it fails that. No, it passes that test. That's interesting. Okay, so maybe it is actually the trailing space that's the issue. I think it is. I think it's the trailing space. Let's see.
At the end of all the word, at the end of the word, or at the end of the string.
Yeah, look, you were right, Nick. What you said. I guess I was wrong.
Okay.
When you have say hello and there's a space, it actually includes that empty string after the space.
Interesting.
So that was actually an issue. So all you have to do is before you split it, we can just strip it.
Yeah, sure.
So that's fine. So the point is that, yeah, that was a problem. There was, what's it called? There was, there where the leading and trailing spaces did end up causing an issue, so we had to strip the string first because we don't care about the leading and trailing spaces. We just want to get rid of them.
Right.
So one of them still failed, and I think it's this last one. Okay, I think my theory is this is not working for an empty string. Yeah, so here, if it's an empty string, it still ends up giving you this character. So like it gives you it's like if the input's an empty string and you split at the space, it ends up giving you just the empty string, which is not what we want. I think I'm wondering, can we just handle for that case if the input's an empty string, we would just return an empty string. I'm just trying to figure out if there's any other. Like here, what if the input has, what if there's multiple spaces? Like what if it's test and then there's like a couple spaces in there? What would happen? Yeah, see, look at that. Look at that. See, that's a problem.
So did it flag an error?
Well, what happened is if there's test and there's a bunch of spaces, then it included like all these extra empty strings in there. So I want to look something up. Python str split, because I could have sworn that there was like some other. No, it's just okay. So this is just number of lines minus. Okay, never mind. So I thought so you can limit the number of splits. I thought you could say like ignore if it's empty or something. That might be a feature with the regular expressions, but what we'll do then. So this is exactly what you said, which I thought wasn't going to be an issue, but which certainly is an issue. So what we have to do is we just have to say if words I is an empty string, we just want to ignore it.
Right.
And then
don't return.
Yeah, because see, this was the issue. We were trying to modify the string, and it was empty, so there was no, none of this, whatever. So yeah, if it's an empty string, we want to continue. So basically, we don't want to touch the empty string, and then when we join everything together, if you join an empty string, it just won't do anything, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
But now that passes, and I can put this test back, I guess how it was, but now it passes everything, including the empty string test, so that's good.
Good.
And
Now,
okay.
I thought of one thing that maybe with your one-liner that you have as a solution, but I thought of something.
All right, what's that?
Well, it's not like a whole separate solution, but with part of the problem you're having, couldn't you use the is-alpha method to, instead of trying to handle all the cases of spaces trailing, couldn't you use the is-alpha method to make sure that basically, I guess if the character is not alpha, but I guess I wouldn't handle numbers held in a string, which is a problem.
Yeah, and see, I don't even know how the numbers work. Like, they don't give any examples with numbers, and none of these test cases have them. So, like, if one of the strings starts with a number, there's no, like, capital number. So I don't know how that would work. But I think, like, for this, the leading and trailing spaces don't matter, so I would just throw them out. Like, you could probably, like, if you were just looping through the string without stripping it, you could, like, check for spaces, or you could check for is alpha, because I guess it only matters for alpha characters.
Sure.
But, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna get rid of that print statement. Yeah, so, okay, so this passes everything.
Okay. Alright, well, why don't we look at your solution that you originally came up with that...
Sure, I will do that.
Sure,
so,
now we can move on
my solution is super cheaty, but I'll just show it anyways. But this one's interesting. So what are we doing? We strip the string first to get rid of the leading and trailing spaces because we don't care about them. Then we split it the space, so we break up the string into its individual words. Then for each word, the goal is to just capitalize the first character and then just leave the rest of it intact. If it happens to be an empty string, we just don't do anything to it. And then finally, we join this list back together with nothing in between them, so it ends up going... It goes from this one string, say hello, to say, and then hello, and then it becomes capital S, say, and capital H, hello, and then we just join it back together, so it works out.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'll show you my solution, which is really cheap. And my solution...
Well, if it works, it works.
Yes, it does work. And my solution, there's a built-in method in Python called title. So you can call title on a string, and it'll basically take each word and capitalize the first letter and make everything else lowercase, which is exactly what we want.
Yeah.
All you do, literally.
Yeah, all you do is call title and then concatenate each string or just.
Yeah. All you do is you do string.title and then you replace the spaces with nothing.
An empty string. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's my answer, and yeah, that passes all the tests.
All right. I can respect that.
Now the one thing I will say, I'm gonna just double check this. Python str title. I'm pretty sure it converts the rest into. Let me see. The first characters are capitalized. Oh, so maybe it doesn't. I wasn't sure if it made the rest of the characters lowercase or not. It looks like it doesn't do that. So in that case, I think the title method will always work for this.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, so you basically do the title thing first, and then after that you get rid of all the spaces. So there's a nice one-liner for that.
Very nice.
I'll submit my final answer to Codewars, and then we can. I want to see. I was like seeing what the top answer is. Okay, yeah. See the top answer. I even upvoted this answer already, so I guess I solved this one a while ago. But the top answer is exactly what we just did. Title and then replace with the space.
Interesting.
And then someone else here has a solution that was kind of like the first one that we did. Actually, it was a little bit different. That's an interesting way of doing it. So they're just saying, like, they're looking at a given character and they're saying if the character before it was a space, then we change the current. If the character before the current character was a space, we change the current one to be an uppercase, and then they get rid of the spaces at the very end. So that's a good way of doing it too.
Yeah, that's smart.
And then I don't know. There's some other solutions, but that's beside the point. So the point is, I always love checking because the first solution is always really interesting, and I always love to see if I can come up with the solution that's at the top.
Yeah,
So,
just
okay.
to see if you can. All right.
All right. So you got the first one. We can go on to the second one. Just in case anyone joined late, my good friend Nick and I are solving some coding problems on Codewars. Basically, we're just looking at a couple problems and we're gonna talk through a couple different solutions. We'll solve a couple different solutions, and we're also open to any questions. They can be about programming. They can be about whatever. Maybe not too personal, but feel free to ask any questions or make it interactive or whatever. So, all
Exactly.
right, let's should we take a look at this alphabet problem?
Yeah, I found this one and thought it was quite interesting, although it should be too complex, but it's interesting.
Yeah, so let's see. It says, welcome. Thank you. In this kata, which is the Codewars name for a problem, you are required to, given a string, replace every letter with its position in the alphabet. If anything in the text isn't a letter, ignore it and don't return it. So, lowercase a is 1, lowercase b is 2, etc., etc. So, like, this T becomes 20 because it's the 20th position, I guess. And then, like, here's this A. I'm assuming this 1 goes with it. And then there's this T, which is 20. Okay. So this is pretty clear. Basically, we just want to get rid... anything that's not a letter, we want to ignore. And then anything that is a letter, we want to replace with its position in the alphabet. So let me open this.
Right. Regardless of if it's uppercase or lowercase.
Yes, that's a really important distinction that we will have to handle for. So uppercase and lowercase don't matter. They should both be the same. So how do you suppose we should start this problem?
Well, see, the core of what I was thinking originally when I came across this was basically that. That's interesting. So I guess it really doesn't matter. I would handle the string itself first. I would literally just make it so that basically everything, you get rid of everything that's not a letter, and then make everything lowercase or everything uppercase, just so it's easier to handle.
Okay. Let's do that first. Let's get rid of everything, and including spaces too. We don't want spaces.
Yeah.
We don't want
Right.
like
Apostrophes, periods, yeah, everything. I guess we can just make everything lowercase, so it's simple.
Yeah, and we better make everything lowercase too, so we can be consistent. So let's do that. How do you think we should go about doing that?
I would loop through and just simply say, or I would use the isAlpha method probably.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do this. Why don't we make a list and we'll just append everything to the list that's an alpha character.
Sure.
All right, so we'll start. Let me zoom in a little bit more even. So we'll start with an empty list and let's just loop through each character, and then we'll say if this character is a letter, then we'll add it to the list, and we'll make sure to convert it to lowercase as well. So like, okay, so let's just do that. So, and you can use the isAlpha function or method to check that. So if it's alpha, we want to append the character, and what we'll do is we want to append it, as a lowercase, right?
Right.
So you could either do it here, or we could loop through text.lower. It doesn't really make a difference.
I guess whichever. Well, do they use the same amount of memory? Is a question.
I don't know. Honestly, don't know. I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I'll just put it out here. So we're looping through. We convert it to lowercase first, and then we'll loop through and we'll say if the character that we're looking at right now is an alpha character, then we will
Appended.
we'll append it to this list. Okay.
Sure.
So now we have this list of characters, and we can look at it and see how we're doing so far. So
Okay.
yeah, the sun sets. The sun. This is really hard to read. It's at 12. Whatever. I don't know. The point is that this looks pretty good. This looks pretty good to me. So yeah, so we got rid of all the spaces, we got rid of all of the apostrophes or periods or whatever. So now we need a way to convert each letter into its corresponding number positions. So what do you think about that?
See, that's interesting, because what I originally thought may not work, because I was really thinking to use some kind of conversion to Ascii or something, and then converting how that scale worked.
Yeah, see that's a really good way of doing it. I think we should go with that. So
Yeah,
we can
that's
look
what I saw, but
yeah, I agree. So we can look at each character and convert it to its ASCII value, and it won't quite be from 1 to 20 or from 1 to 26 yet, but we can really easily fix that. So let's do that. Maybe what we'll do, and actually what we could do honestly is we don't even need this. We can say if the character is an alpha, instead of appending the character itself, we can append the number that belongs to it, right?
okay, yeah, sure.
So we can just do this still inside of that for loop that we were doing before. So my question is, do you know what the ASCII value is for lowercase a?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look it up.
All right, it's 97.
97. All right.
I have memorized that lowercase a is 97 and an uppercase a is 65.
All right.
Because if you know the uppercase a, you can just add whatever to get any other uppercase letter, and same for lowercase. So they're good to
You
know.
can just add 32 or whatever, or 26.
Yeah, so you can
Not
add whatever.
32. I don't know why I said 32.
Well, it's a power of 2, so
Well,
it's
this is
worth
true.
something. Well, all right, so we'll do that. Now, here's the other question: is what do we use to get the ASCII value of a character? Do you know? I know what it is. You don't have to look it up. I was just wondering if you happen to.
I've definitely used it before.
Yeah, you don't use it all that often, but we want to use the ORD function.
Yeah, that's right.
To do this, and I will actually talk about that in a CS University lecture. So the strings lecture, which probably won't be out for a little while from now, I will be explaining this in more detail. But basically, if instead of char we do ORD of that character, then that will give us the ASCII value of that character, which is going to be a number. So let's just see what this looks like right now. Okay, maybe let's just return chars. And obviously it's going to be wrong, but we can at least look and see what we get so far. So, okay, so now we got numbers, right? So we're getting closer.
Right. Yes, for sure.
But the numbers are not quite right. And then the one thing I'll say is, like, you could count or whatever, but here's 97, and this 1, I promise you these positions line up, even if it's, like, not super obvious. But this 97 is what I said at lowercase a, and this 1, this is like an at, so, like, if you look at the string, it's like the sun sets at 12 o'clock, so that a in at is this 1 right here, which corresponds to 97. So what do we do to move these numbers into the range that we want?
What do you mean range is in, like
instead of 97 to 100 something, we want it to go from 1 to 26.
Oh, so you just whatever. I guess if we're doing all lowercase, then you pick the A is the first one, so 97. So you should you just subtract by whatever value is the limiting factor, I guess.
Yeah. So I think since we want to go from 1 to 26, I think you're supposed to subtract 96, Because then we have
Okay.
97, which is a capital A. You subtract 96 and you get 1.
Sure.
So all we do, I just change this. Instead of appending the character itself, I append ord of that character minus 96. So we get the ASCII/Unicode value. Because ASCII and Unicode agree for the first 100 or so characters. So we get that value, and then we subtract 96 from it to get to get it in the range that we actually want. And I'll show you really quick. We need to join this back into a string, but like here's the output, and like I guess you can't see it right now, Nick, but by the time the audience hears me talking, they'll see it. So we have the right output. So we have 28, 519, 28, 519, whatever. The point is we solved it. All we have to do is we have to get it back into a string.
Right, you needed a string with each number with a space in between. I guess so. So just taking each character or each number and putting a space in between them.
Yeah. Then how about in that case, instead of having an empty list, why don't we just have an empty string and just append to it each time?
Sure, just append the number and then a space. That's cool.
Yeah, so we'll say chars plus equals, and we have to call the str function on the number so we can append it, and then we add a space. And then at the end we just want to strip because it's going to add in it's going to add an extra space at the end, so if we just call strip, it'll get rid of that.
Sure.
Okay, that worked. That passed that test, and we failed a bunch of tests. Oh, it looks like it failed some tests that have some random characters in them. That's really interesting.
Are we handling? Well, yeah, but we're doing his alpha, so shouldn't that handle any item in the string that's not a letter?
That's what I thought. Let me try moving this lower into the other place, because I don't know if that's interfering with it.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't like the location of it. I don't know.
No, that didn't fix it.
Because if you look at like the sunset sets at 12 o'clock, it gets rid of that apostrophe.
Mm-hmm. Well, but these test cases are like they have random Unicode symbols, like an N with a tilde on top.
Oh, I see.
Or like the fraction 1/2. Like the single character that's like 1/2, whatever. It's like
yeah, but that still shouldn't be classified in his alpha, right?
Yeah. So, like the output that we're giving is right, but it just has extra stuff in it. Like for this one case, our output goes 9, 145, 15, whereas the correct answer goes 9, 15. So that 145 part is wrong. And I don't know what that. Let me see. 521. I'm not sure. So I think some of these characters it's not treating right. So I wonder. I have another way of solving this that will, that won't have the same problem. But then I'm wondering. I wanna let's look up the isAlpha function and see.
Yes, this is what I was curious about.
So it checks whether the string consists of alphabetic characters only, and we're running it on this one individual character, right? We're saying for char in text if char.isAlpha. So I wonder why. Okay, let's let me open up a terminal session. Oh wait, I probably want that to go in the other one. Let me open up a terminal session. We'll play around with this a little bit. I mean, I have another solution that will be fine, but I think this is actually really valuable to try and run through some stuff.
Well, it's good to see because it's a pretty straightforward solution, so it would be interesting to see what's going on.
Yeah, so I want to find out, like, this weird 1/2 character is alpha. It says false. So, like, here, let's go through this one for a second. So 5, 21, 15, 9, and then 145. So 5, 21, 15, 19, and then 140. So it's saying this lowercase I. hang on, it's saying E is 5. So E is 5, right? Or maybe
Yes.
it skips over and then is U 21? That sounds right? U's 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's towards the end. And then O, it says, is 15. And then...
Yes.
And then I is 9. That sounds right. Okay, I think... Oh, I see what the problem is. It's the Enye. It's the N with the tilde on it.
What is it's handling it as an N?
Yeah, it's so if you call the N with the tilde on it .is alpha, it says true because it is an alpha character, right?
Well, right.
But
sure.
it's not one that we want to treat, that we want to handle. So okay. So now we figured out what the issue is. Okay, so that's actually really good.
Yes, interesting that would cause. I mean, it makes sense why, but it's interesting how it.
Yeah, it is interesting. So I think the easiest way to handle it then is let's just when we convert it to ORD, we can just check to see if it's in the range that we want.
Okay.
And then we can say if it's in, like, let's just do this. Let's say.
Yeah, just check to make sure it's between whatever 1 and whatever.
Yeah, so we'll convert the character to lowercase, get the ordinal value, and then subtract 96, and then we'll say if 1 is less than or equal to O is less than or equal to 26, then we'll append it to the string. Otherwise, we won't.
Sure, that sounds good.
And then, honestly, we don't even need to check if it's an alpha character or not, because only an alpha character would end up in this range anyways.
True.
So I'll just leave the if statement, but, like, I guess it's not necessary. Alright, we just failed more tests. So now it's giving... Am I wrong in... I was trying to do a compound if statement. I'm wondering if... Oh, because I wrote str and I forgot to put O in print. Oh my god. Okay, I just made a typo, that's all.
It's okay.
Okay, so we passed all the tests that time. That's good. Yeah, so that was really interesting to debug. And, like, I'll just say, for total transparency, I did look at these 3 problems before we started. And, like, I maybe thought of some solutions or some tricks, but I didn't, like, try and solve them. And, like, this was not a solution that I thought of ahead of time, and I was not expecting that we would run into that issue. So, like, that was, totally organic, whatever. But that was really interesting. So we solved that problem. It was treating, like, Enyes or whatever as alpha, which they obviously are, but we wanted to ignore them, so we had to add this if statement in here. And
sure.
I'll just point out really quick, if we do get rid of that is alpha if statement, let's just see if it works. It should work. Yeah. We don't have to check if it's alpha anymore because we're checking if it's in this range now, and only alpha characters will be in that range anyways. So,
sure. Right.
Okay. That looks pretty good. Do you have any other ideas for this one? Because I'll show another way of doing it as well.
I don't think. I mean, that's the way I would have solved it if given a challenge. But I'm curious to see how you saw it originally.
All right, I'll give you another. So, like, honestly, this one you could definitely convert into a one-liner, and I'll show you another way that you could think about it that you could also convert into a one-liner. And then I don't know. Let's just do this. What you could do is and I think my AirPods are dying, so I might have to take them out for a couple minutes, but we'll see. What you could do is I'm going to make a string called alpha, and I'm literally just going to type the lowercase alphabet in. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So I made this string called alpha, and it literally just has the entire alphabet in it. Lowercase alphabet.
Okay.
And then what you can do... You have an idea for that?
Well, no, I mean, that's certainly a way that you could have addressed it, using that alphabet in lowercase, but
then what I'm thinking is you have this alphabet. If you have a given character, you can get its index in the string, and the index in the string plus 1 is the answer that you want, right?
Okay.
So
that's okay. That justifies that, because really I thought that, but the reason that typing all the characters out isn't always the best, to just put it in a list or string or something, but because you're using the actual index numbers, that justifies doing it that way, I think.
Okay, so yeah, let's just solve that one. The solution's gonna look pretty similar, but it'll be a bit different. So we start with the alphabet. We'll do the same chars for char in text, and then all we have to do is we have to say if char in alpha, which aka if this character is a lowercase thing, then all we do is we say chars plus equals, and then we just do alpha dot index of char, and then plus 1.
Right.
I'm gonna take these AirPods out for a sec. Okay. I think you should be coming out of the built-in speaker now.
Come again?
All right. Wait. Say something. I don't know. Maybe we lost him. I'll put the... Okay, I don't know. Can you hear me? Alright, hang on one sec. Let's try and get this fixed up for a sec here. Unless it's frozen. Okay, looks like the call failed. Let me call him back. Okay. Okay, so I guess whenever I change the audio settings, FaceTime fails or something.
I guess. I mean, I'm sure changing the audio path could really screw it up.
Well, whatever. So I can hear you now. I'll put the AirPods back on once they charge, and we'll have to use something else other than FaceTime in the future. But whatever. Okay, let's just get back to it because we're good. So if the character is in this string of text, we get its index in the string, and then we add 1 because we want to start counting at 1 instead of counting at 0.
Right.
And then and we also have to add a space at the end because we need to separate them with spaces. And then we just return chars dot strip to get rid of that trailing space. And then let me comment out the old version because we want to check the new version. Okay, so the new one failed.
Interesting.
What is wrong with it? I wonder if it's doing the same enye kind of thing.
It could be, but that's odd that would happen.
You know what? I have a theory. Let me pull up another terminal and we can play with this a little bit.
Your theory?
My theory. If we do enye in... No, that's false. Let me just take this whole string here. And whoops. All right. Well, that's not. Maybe my theory's wrong. So let's just look at one of these random tests. 17, 9. Okay, look. It looks like it skipped over. Oh, we forgot to convert it to lowercase. That's why.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was silly.
Yeah,
okay.
That'll do it to you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. That was a stupid mistake. Now we passed. Now we passed all the tests. So we just forgot to convert it to lowercase. So for example, the way I found it was there was one random test case that had a capital B at towards the beginning, and it just skipped over that. And I said, okay, well, why is it doing that? And then whatever, we forgot the capital letter. So let me get rid of the terminal then. Okay, so that passes all of the tests.
Interesting. Good solution.
I don't know. So and either of these problems you could easily convert into a one-liner. There was one other chunk of code or one other thought that I had that I don't think we actually need, but I'm still going to point it out anyways because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, go for it. I'm curious to see what you're thinking.
The other thing is if we hypothetically used... you could use a regular expression to get rid of all of the non-alphabet characters. So just to test it, and then, you know, you can implement a solution on it. We can do text.replace, and the string should be something like this. So basically, I want to replace everything that matches this with nothing, and this is a regular expression, so the square brackets mean it's a character set, and then I have this range capital A to capital Z, lowercase a to lowercase z, and then the caret in the front means not this, so anything that's not a letter basically. So I just want to see. Obviously, it's not going to be the right answer, but it looks like maybe it didn't even. Does text.replace not do regular expressions? Because if not, we can let's just find out. If not, then we can use the regular expression module. But I just want to look this up really quick. Okay, so it looks like replace by default doesn't use. So maybe we just have to import re and then re.replace. I think it's this. Let's see if this works. No, it's not replace. So let's just look this up. Python re replace. Here. Oh, it's re.sub, not re.replace. Okay. I wonder if this will work, or if I have stuff in the wrong order. re.sub. I have the regular expression. Unless I wrote it wrong. Oh, no. They want the regular expression first. And then they want... Okay. I think... Let's look at the docs for a second. It takes the pattern, then the replacement, and then the original string. So text should go at the end.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so now it's working. Okay. So I think I was confused because in Java, I think the Java string replace works with regular expressions, but in Python it doesn't. But anyways, like now this is like more complicated, so it's not even worth doing. But like, so this was a thought I had, which turned out to be a bad idea, or not a great idea. But if you do this, you can get rid of everything that's not an alpha character, and then you can go from there. But let's just forget about the solution, because then you have to import RE and you have to write regular expression, and it's kind of confusing. But I kind of want to convert one of these answers into a one-liner. And I think the easier one to convert will be the one that uses the ORD function, because then we don't have this extra, like... Well, honestly, they'd both be the same, but let's convert I'm going to convert the ORD version, because I think it's just going to be a little bit easier to convert. Or the solution that we get will be a little bit shorter, so it'll be better. But let's try and convert it. And, by the way, I do have a series that I just started on Python one-liners, so the stuff that I do is, like, right now, will eventually be covered in that series, but if you don't understand it, don't worry about it, because eventually you will. But I love solving stuff in one line, so we're going to do it. So let's do this. We're going to join something at the space, and the thing that we're going to join at the space is all of the characters converted into their numbers. So we're going to say... the ORD of char.lower minus 96, which is the thing that we want for char in text, but we only want the ones that are valid. So we say if, we want to only have the characters if 1 is less than or equal to ORD of char.lower minus 96 is less than or equal to 26. And that should work. Now, there's a little bit of repetition, because you have to do ORD of char.lower minus 96. You have to do that twice, which is not the best, but if you want a one-liner... So anyways, all we're doing is we're saying for each character in this text, instead of the character, what we want is the ordinal number of that character minus 96. So we want to convert it into that range from 1 to 26. But we only want to keep the character if its value is in the range of 1 to 26. So if it's anything other than a letter, then we want to ignore it. And then we just want to return out front. But let's attempt... Something failed. Oh, because, of course, we need to convert the answer. So the ordinal value minus 96, we have to treat that as a string because we're trying to build a string out of all of these things. And that passed all of our tests.
Awesome.
So there's a one-liner, and you could use the other version with the alpha string. You might just have to end up repeating that whole big string one time, or you could use immediately invoked lambda expression to get around that, but that is for a later day. So, anything else to say about this problem before we submit it?
I don't think so. I think that looks good to me.
All right, let's submit the final and let's see what the top answer is.
I know, I'm curious.
Because you never know, maybe it's similar, maybe it's even better than what we just did. It very well could be better, but we'll find out. Okay, it's taking its sweet time to load. I don't know why it's so slow if this stream is running at 60 FPS according to OBS, but certainly taking its time to submit this problem. Let me I'm gonna put the AirPods back in though. Okay, that just finished. Okay, so the top version... That's really interesting. The top version, it's basically the same one-liner as the one that I did, but their condition says if C dot is alpha. And when we tried that, it ran into issues because it was saying that the Enye was considered an alpha character.
Do you think that could be because your system is focused in Spanish?
It's a good question. Well, I think it runs... Like, when they run it, it runs on their computers.
True.
But I'm wondering... str ord minus 96. I don't know. That's really interesting.
It's a thought.
Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention was that there is a string module and there's this Ascii lowercase thing that has the lowercase alphabet ABC whatever. So instead of typing it out, you can import this like string constant that has it for you. So I totally forgot to mention that, but I did mean to mention that. And then it's like this solution right here and this other solution it's the same thing where you get the index of the character and then they add 1. So they did the same thing as that other solution, but the top solution is very similar to ours. It just uses it uses the is alpha function, which I think wasn't working for us. I'm wondering if they were using a different version of Python, or
It's interesting. It's interesting.
It was something else. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be some extraneous thing, but we figured it out regardless. But yes, ideally that would have worked originally, so we wouldn't have had to.
Yeah, so like I'm pretty happy with the final answer we came up with. Like here's a solution. This one uses the same indexing thing, and it has this whole for loop. So so this was more like the second solution we came up with. I want to see if anyone did. So this one uses a generator function, so that's a bit much for a bit complicated to explain. This one is way overcomplicated. It's overcomplicated, and the fact that they're using xrange leads me to believe that they did it in Python too. Here's someone using a regular expression, so that's good. But whatever. So there's a lot of different solutions to this problem, and that's the point. All of these problems have a lot of different solutions. So we like to discuss a bunch of different ones.
Well, right. That's half the fun of it.
Yeah, so how are you feeling? We do have another problem, but it's a bit more complicated. It's not that bad. Do you want to do another problem, or do you want to call it? It's up to you.
Up for anything. I'm having a lot of fun.
All right, we'll do one more problem. We have 9 people watching right now. Maybe one of them's you, but there's a couple people watching, so that's good. In the future, I'll try and announce these ahead of time. Now that we know that, like, I know how to set everything up correctly, because we spent like an hour trying to set everything up. But now that we have everything set up correctly, I can put an announcement up, and then maybe more people will show up next time, or maybe they won't because they don't care, and that's okay too, because you don't have to care. But anyways, let's move on to the last problem for today. All right, one person in the chat was excited that we're doing another problem, so that's good enough for me. One person is good enough for me.
Sounds good to me.
And you know what? If you're excited too, Nick, then that's 2 people. And I'm excited too, so that's 3 people. So
wonderful.
So that's very exciting. Okay. So here's this last problem. I read through this problem already, but I haven't really thought too much about a solution. So we'll see what happens. You're given a message, I guess a string. Okay, this problem's worded kind of weird, but basically the idea is you're given this message, and you want to basically reverse all of the words and then put them inside of a frame of asterisks like this. So, I don't know. I guess you have this one row of asterisks and then another row at the bottom, and then in between you have each word in reverse, and then you have this extra asterisk, like, going on. So this is actually an interesting problem because there's a couple little Python features that will make some things really nice. I'm thinking right now of 2 really nice shortcuts that we can take with Python that will help with different aspects of this problem. So this will be fun. This will be a good problem. Okay, so let's just look at the samples first, because the problem was not the best worded. And the samples aren't, I guess, super useful, but it looks like you just take each individual word and reverse it and put it on a line with an asterisk before and after, and then you have that row in the beginning and that row at the end. So that's pretty easy. So how do we start, Nick? I think I have a pretty good solution in mind that we can go through, but how do we start?
That is the question. So, I mean, basically what you want to do is, to me, you're almost going to need to know, you really want to find, see, what's interesting to me is that I guess it would be helpful to see an actual output of this.
I think, like, in the like, so if the input's like hello world, the output would be a row of asterisks, and then hello reversed, and then world reversed, and then a row of asterisks at the bottom.
Right, but what sort of dictates that is you need to take the length of the longest word.
Absolutely. That is really important. You have to find the length of the longest word in the string. Right. So that's a good... Why don't we start there? Because that's probably the... Because
that's really what you're right. Because inverting, it's easy. Like, some of that other stuff's easy, but I think that's important.
The inverting part is a good Python trick, and then this part is also a good trick. But we have to find the length of the longest string, because, like, hello world, they're both the same length, so it's not a very good example.
Right.
My assumptions, let's just write out a better test case. And I'm assuming that this is correct. The problem, again, was not the best, like, explained, so we'll see. But my assumption is if the input is something like this is a test, for example, it should probably look something like, let's see, something like, let me just write this out first, and then I'll explain it. So I think the output would be, yeah, okay, so I wrote that out. And just to make sure, it does say words in your solution should be left aligned. And so that's an important key. If the input is this is a test, then the output should be we have a row of asterisks, then we have an asterisk space SIHT space asterisk, and then asterisk space SI, and then so the key is we want to take each word, and the length of the longest word will tell us like how long each line should be, right? Because if we just
yes, okay, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, because if we just did asterisk space word space asterisk, then it wouldn't look like a picture frame anymore.
Right.
So we have to add a certain number of spaces after each word to make sure that everything fits correctly, right?
Well, right. You need the length of the longest word, and then you'll add a space on each side, and then an asterisk on each side, and that gives you the length of the width of the frame.
Right, exactly. And then for all other words, if there's a word that's shorter than the width of the frame, you have to make sure to add the correct number of spaces after the word.
Right.
And the problem says left aligned specifically. So we want to add the spaces after the word instead of before the word. Okay, so this is a better test case because it shows what happens when you have a string that's not long enough. So this is good. Excuse me. So how do we get started then? Why don't we get each individual word, and then let's figure out the width of the frame. I like the way you put that. I always would say like the length of the longest line, but the width of the frame is a good way to put it.
Okay.
So let's do that. So words is equal to text.split at the space, right? So if we have this as a test, it'll split and it'll become a string. Whoops. This is a test. So it'll have 4 separate elements in the list. And then we need to find the length of the longest string in this list. And it doesn't matter, like this and test have the same length, so it doesn't matter which one you pick because we don't care about the string itself, we just care about the length. And so my question is, how would you go about finding the length of the longest string?
Well, it's almost similar to what we were doing in some of the other problems where I guess you would run. See, that's where the wording of this problem is sort of terrible because it's really any character in the string. So you just want to take. That's interesting. So I guess I would take any string of characters not separated by a space. You want to find the longest of those.
Yeah. So we split it at the space, which will split it up into the individual words, and then let's just do the standard approach with a for loop, because sure. I'll show eventually a nice like one line way to do this, but let's do the classic way first because it's probably the way that a lot of people would think to do it. And while I type it out, someone asked a question. Someone asked, are you going to record bucket videos or just other coding videos? I'm going to be honest with you, I have not played Minecraft in quite a few years. I think Nick plays Minecraft, and that's cool, and I know lots of people do. And maybe I would play it just for fun, but I have not touched Bucket in a very long time. In fact, I thought that it doesn't exist anymore, or it got taken down or something, so the answer, unfortunately, is no. The Bucket videos were great. They're what got this channel off the ground, and you know, they were a lot of fun, and I made a ton of them. But I don't have any plans to go back to Minecraft stuff. For now, I have CS University, which is the Python stuff. I have the one-liner series, so looking at some good tips and tricks in Python. And I'm going to try to do these live streams every so often. And there's some other stuff that may or may not come up, but Bucket is unfortunately not in the cards right now. So anyways, let's move on then. So what we'll do is we'll say longest. We're gonna have longest. We're gonna do the classic strategy, right? So the classic strategy is that you basically you start with the first value that you have, and then you go through the list and you say, is there a value that's better than the first value? And if this value is better, then we say we found a new better value. And then once we go through all of the values in this list, we'll have found the best one. And if that was confusing, then let's just write it out. It'll be clear. So let's start with the first, or I guess 0th whatever character in the word in this list, and we're making an assumption right here. We're assuming that the length of words is greater than 0. Right, because if we're indexing at index 0, we're assuming that something is there, and so maybe that won't be true, because if they give us like an empty string as an input, we would have to handle for that. So I'm gonna write that comment there, and it's an easy thing to deal with anyway. So I'm just gonna write the comment. But what we'll do is we'll say something like for word in words. Actually, I guess we don't care about the word itself, just the length. So let's just start with the length of words in index 0, and we're going to say if len of word, if the length of the word that we're looking at right now is greater than the length of the longest word that we found so far, then the longest length is equal to the length of this word that we just found. So we just found a better answer. Right. Okay. So super straightforward. So once this for loop finishes, we will have found the length of the longest string in the thing. In the list. Right. Okay, so now we have the longest, which is the width of the frame. Which is good. So now what?
All right. Well, now I mean, there's a couple things you could do. You also, I mean, I guess you obviously have to invert the individual words.
It's true. Well, we can handle. What I think we should do is let's just build the frame line by line, and because like the reversing part, we can use slicing to do that, and it'll be super easy.
Right.
But let's just build it line by line. So we'll start with. So what do? We need to return. We need to return the string. So let's start with. I'm gonna make a string called mirror, which is gonna be empty to begin with. And then we can just go through and append line by line to it.
We'll call it something else than mirror because your function name is mirror.
Ooh, yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't... Would it matter? Okay,
no, I guess it wouldn't matter. But...
Regardless of whether it would matter, it's definitely bad practice, so you definitely shouldn't do that. Like, it may not make a difference in this case, but it's definitely bad practice to name the variable the same as the function, so very good call. I'm going to call it ans for answer, but that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think it's just, with localization, it probably wouldn't matter, but...
Yeah, so just to be super clear, we'll do that, because I absolutely agree with you. So we'll start with that. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to generate asterisks. We know the width, we know how many asterisks there should be, and we just want that number of asterisks. So, what's the, there's a very nice shortcut in Python to do this. Do you know
dang. Oh, dang. I've done this before.
Well, you don't have to look anything up, I'll tell you. So the good shortcut is you can multiply a string by a number, and it'll repeat that string that number of times.
Right.
So if I do hello times 3, it'll be hello, hello, hello. So in this case, the string could just be an asterisk, and the number of times would just be longest, right? Because longest is the width of the frame. Or actually, no, longest is not the width of the frame yet. Longest is actually the length of the longest word. So it's not quite the width of the frame. So let's actually fix that because I'm going to be wrong. So the width of the frame, I'm going to make a variable called width, would actually be equal to longest plus 4.
Right.
Because that's it. I mean, it's just the longest word plus a space on either side and an asterisk on either side.
Sure.
So it's a constant term of plus 4, as far as I can tell from these examples. Okay, but now we actually know the width. And so our answer to start off will add an asterisk multiplied by width. So if the width is 10, it'll be 10 asterisks. If the width is 5, it'll be 5 asterisks, whatever. And then we also want to add a new line character, so we go on to the next line. Okay, then we need to loop through each word. And basically, we're going to have our for loop here, so I'm going to make a comment, for loop. And then we can literally just repeat that same line again, because the top of the frame and the bottom of the frame are the same, right? So
Sure.
No need to reinvent the wheel. And then at the end, we're just going to return ends anyways. Actually, I guess for the bottom one, we don't want an extra new line character, I'm assuming. Yes, so let's just get rid of that. But otherwise, it'll be the same. And so now we need to actually write the for loop to loop through. And this is an interesting one because I have a pretty good idea that involves a little bit of math to figure this out. But we'll start with something and we'll see when it works and when it doesn't. So let's just loop through. Let's loop through each word in this list of words, and then for now, let's just add that word reversed with the star space and space star. Let's not worry about the extra padding.
Okay.
But let's just add that. So we'll say answer plus equals so asterisk space plus. We need to reverse the word, and then we need space asterisk at the end. And then reversing the word, I don't know. You could write like a whole for loop to do that for every single word. You could use the reversed function that's built in.
Right.
But the easiest way, especially because it's a string, is just to slice it. So if you do : -1, so this is slicing, and this is another thing that I'll talk about in CS University. Eventually. So, but the point is, we want the word, we have : : we want basically the first value that you put here is where you want to start. And if we don't put anything, it means start at the beginning, or basically doesn't mean that. If you don't put anything, it means Python will figure out where to start. And then the second number that you put would be the end. And if you don't put anything, Python will figure it out. And then this is the step value, which says what you want to move by each time. So by making it -1, we're saying we want to go backwards. And so when it's -1, Python knows to start at the end of the string and move to the beginning of the string. And so this will end up reversing the string. And then all we want to do is we want to make sure we have that new line character at the end, right? Okay, so what do we do so far? We find the length of the longest word. We add 4 to handle for the frame part. And then we add the top of the frame, which is just width number of asterisks. And we have the bottom part as well. And then in between, for each word, we add this little padding on the beginning and the end, and we reverse the word in the middle.
Right.
So let's see what happens, because this will pass
should
some
work.
tests and fail some other ones.
Yeah, it should do everything except handle the padding.
Yeah, so it'll work for the Hello World test. It'll work for the Codewars test, because there's only one word there. But this awesome kata, I don't know how you pronounce it, that one it'll fail for. So we'll actually see it fail. There is one issue, and the issue with this code is longest is an integer. So instead of len longest, I just want longest itself. So that was a little logic error that I made. But here we go. So we see that this passed the first 2 tests and failed the third one, like I said. So for the first test, we have hello world, and both of those strings are the same length, so we don't have to worry about the extra padding. For the second one, it's only a single word, and so again, there's no padding to worry about. But for the third one, you do actually have to worry, because there's 2 strings of different length. Right? And so now the question is, how do you deal with that? We need to add some amount of padding, and we need to add it right here, right after the word and before the space asterisk at the other end. But how do you figure out how much padding to add? What do you think? Do you have any thoughts?
So we found I believe we have it stored as an int that gives us the length of the longest word, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So couldn't we just use that and compare each word's length with the length of the longest word, take the difference, and then make all of those, whatever the difference is, make each of those a space?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's exactly
appended to the end of that's appended to the right side of the reverse word because it's left aligned.
Right. So that's exactly what I was thinking. So let's just do that. So basically after the reversed word, we're going to add a space multiplied by how many times we want it. Well, the number of times we want it is longest minus len word. That's it.
Okay. Right.
Which is exactly what you said. And so it's basically the length of the longest string minus the length of the word that we're looking at is the amount of extra padding that you need in order to, make this frame, a frame or whatever, in order to have the correct amount of padding. And then obviously if this word is the longest word or a longest word, then this will be 0, right? Longest minus longest will be 0. And then it'll just have 0 spaces, which means no padding. Right. So that's it. The padding part's super easy if you notice the little math trick that you can do there. So that passes the initial test. Let's run the long one. So it actually failed a lot of the long tests. And now I'm wondering... Okay, let's see. It should work for random inputs too. Okay. Let's just look through this. Oh, I see. It looks like we ran into the same split issue again. Remember when you split and there might be an extra space and then it gives you like an empty string or whatever? Okay. So I ran into that same issue where we want to skip over that. So we want to say for word in words, we want to say if word is not an empty string, then we want to add it, because I think we were adding a bunch of empty strings to our solution. Okay, now we passed everything. So the problem was it was generating a bunch of random tests, and it was like sticking extra random spaces in different places. And then when we did that split thing, it was giving us all these empty strings that we were supposed to be ignoring. And so by adding this extra if statement, now we're actually ignoring them.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, that's it. We solved all of it. There's one other thing that I will say. And then I'm wondering, like, to convert this into a one-liner, I don't think... I could definitely do it, and maybe I'll even try to do it. But before I can, let's just look... By far the longest and... Well, I'm not going to say most complicated part, but the longest part is when we find the length of the longest string. And we can actually make that a lot simpler using a nice feature of Python. So Python has the built-in max function, and the max function will give you the maximum out of a list of elements. And so if they're numbers, it'll give you the biggest number. If they're strings, I think it gives it to you... I don't think it gives you the longest string. I think it gives you the... in alphabetical order or lexicographical order, it gives you like the last one. We'll find out, because if it gives us the wrong answer, I know how to change it to make it work. But what we could do is instead of this bunch of lines and using a for loop, we could just say longest is equal to the length of the max of words. And if that may or may not work, so we're going to find out. But basically, the theory is that max of words should give us the longest string. And if it doesn't, then I'll fix it so that it does. But it should give us the longest string, and then we just get the length of that, and that's it. So let's just see what happens. Oh, I commented out one line that I wasn't supposed to comment out, so that was that. Okay, wait, this actually passed all the tests. Okay, so I guess it did do exactly what we wanted it to do.
Well, that's the way I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's not as exciting anymore, because then I was going to be like, here's this one way to fix it, and here's another way to fix it, but whatever, it works, so forget all that. So I guess the point is, when we do max of words, it will find the longest word, or I guess a longest word, because two words could have the same length, but we don't care. We just care about the longest length is. And then we say whatever the longest word is, what's the length of it, and we store it in longest, and then we don't need to do this whole for loop thing. So the for loop thing that we did before is like the classic way of doing it, and it's absolutely not wrong. And if that's what you thought of, then that's great, because that's like a good way to go about it. And that way of thinking will work in any programming language, whereas the one that I just did will basically only work in Python, or I guess in another language if it has a similar construct. But the one that I did, requires that you really understand Python, whereas the other one is the much more logical approach that would work in any language. So they're both equally valid and equally correct, but, they're both good. And so we solved this one. Do I want to try to convert it to be a one-liner? Yeah, I think I do. I mean, is that really a question?
No, it's really not for you.
And I'll bet that I could probably... I'm going to try and do it pretty quickly because I don't want to bore people, but I do want to do this for a second. So what are we going to do? We're going to do... let's convert... Okay, first we need to find... I'm going to use a lambda. So lambda... we need... What do we need? We need both longest and width. And then I'm going to call this. And can we do the longest and the width? Well, the longest... Well, I guess we don't need width, because width is just longest plus 4, right? So we won't... We'll just use longest. And then longest is going to be len max text.split space. Right?
Okay. Okay.
Do I have the parentheses lined up? Yeah, okay, now I do. So first we need to know the length of the longest string, and then we have this in this variable called longest, and then we can do, let's return, and then the answer is going to be an asterisk multiplied by the width, which is just longest plus 4, plus backslash n, plus, and then we're going to have to do some joining. We're going to have to join something. And then let's just add the same thing again. Asterisk times longest plus 4 plus, no backslash n at the end, because that's the end. Okay, so now to do the middle part, we need to generate each line. So we're going to do backslash n dot join, and I'm going to put a list comprehension in there. And that is going to be, I'm literally just going to copy this thing from the code. So asterisk space plus word reversed plus the amount of padding plus star backslash n for word in words, which is text.split at the space.
Okay.
And I think that this should work, but it doesn't, because I have an extra new line character. So let's just get rid of the extra new line character.
I just put one at the end.
No, I think I... Oh, I have a bunch of extra... Okay, I had an extra new line character in like 2 different places.
Okay.
Let's see, it's still not quite working. I think I deleted one new line character that I was not supposed to. Yes, I did delete one that I wasn't supposed to, but I did have an extra one somewhere else. We're getting closer. We still have an extra new line character. So let's see, asterisk multiplied by longest plus 4. Oh, you know what? I think I'm missing one. Maybe. Yep, okay, so I was missing one. So now we passed those. Oh, no, we failed. Oh, we failed because of the same thing where when you split the text, it does whatever. So just to make this easier, I'm going to add a words parameter to this lambda, and then when I call it, I'm going to... Where do I... Oh, wait, this line is too long for code mirror. Oh, no, I was zoomed in, and when I zoomed in, it was too long to see everything. Okay, so, yeah, when you get to that point, maybe, you know...
Maybe it's a little much.
Maybe it's a bit much, but whatever. We're almost done. I'm almost done, I promise. I know this is weird or whatever, but the last thing is we just need text.split at the space. Or I guess what we could do is... We split it at the space, and then we just want to get rid of anything that's not an empty string. So, do I just use a list comprehension for that? Well, let's just do...
Could, I guess.
No, let's just do this. We're going to map it. We're going to use the map function. And
Okay.
We're just going to use lambda x. We're going to use the identity function as the mapping function, because an empty string is falsy, and a not-empty string is truthy. And so, all the empty strings will be falsy. Oh no, I want not a map, but I want a filter. So I filter, like that. I don't know. I'm not even going to bother explaining it, just because, okay, now I need to actually use the variable that I just made. Let's use the actual variable I just made. These are, there we go, I passed it. So these are all techniques, that I'm going to go over in the Python one-liners video, and maybe I'll actually revisit this problem. I'm actually going to star this problem. I
thought it was a good workout.
Yeah, like I have a ton of starred problems, but I'm gonna star this one so that I can come back to it, because here's my one-liner. It's really long. Let's figure out how many characters long it is. I'm not gonna try to explain it because it uses a bunch of these like tricks or whatever. It's 241 characters including spaces, which is not good for this, because in fact I think, according to the Python style guide, the line length is supposed to be like, I want to say 80. Okay, someone says 79, someone says 99, 119. The point is this line is too long. But it's just for fun. And it's something that I'll eventually explain. But the point is that you should not do something like that. You should do something like the other answer that we had before. And so now I'm going to submit the final version that has my my crazy one-liner, and I want to see if anyone else did a one-liner, and maybe if theirs look any better.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sure someone did.
Yeah, I'm sure. So here, someone used an F string. So instead of, they used an F string, and they used the rjust function of the string. So that adds the spaces. Instead of like doing space multiplied by whatever number, you can just do rjust, and it will it'll do that. But this is basically pretty similar to what we did.
Interesting.
Oh, here's my solution right here. So there weren't that many solutions, I guess, because mine showed up, and it actually has the commented out other solutions. So I should probably delete that and resubmit it, but it doesn't matter. Does anyone else have a one-liner? I am scrolling through and I don't see any. Here's a two-liner. So if they had used the lambda expression thing that I used, then it could have been a one-liner. But anyways, that's beside the point. The point is that we solved the problem, and we did it in a way that was not in one line, which is a good thing. Actually, their one-liner was about the same as mine. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking about one-liners now, because that's not the point of this at all. Maybe I'll do some live streams where I do one-liners, but those will probably be after that series has made some progress. So I think we're gonna stop there, because we've been doing this for over an hour and a half, and maybe we should take a break from coding for now. So I hope to whoever is watching now or was watching that this was interesting. I hope we did a good job of explaining everything. Once again, this is my good friend Nick. He's working at Oracle right now on a co-op. Very smart dude. And so if you would like to see Nick come back here, then leave a comment. He probably will be back here anyways, regardless. But
so if you hate me, too bad.
Pretty much, but no, he's good. So I'll be back. I'll try and have some other people on here as well. Maybe I'll end up doing some of them on my own. But I think it's kind of fun to just like go through and solve some random problems and do it live. And if people want to ask questions or whatever, then that's fun too. Nick has a YouTube channel. I linked it in the description. He said he's gonna try and you're gonna do some videos about your experience at Oracle.
Yeah, I want to just give a little bit of background, because there aren't a ton of really blog or recap style things about people in internships. So I want to get my perspective of that in a big tech industry, and then maybe some tech videos on the side. We'll see. But
yeah, so there's a link in the description. I don't know. I'll probably post an announcement once he gets something up there. So and we'll see him again soon. So that's all for this live stream. Hopefully I'll have another one, I don't know, next weekend after. I'll give some advance notice next time though. Any last thing to say, Nick?
No, I appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun.
All right, that's great. So bye for now then. Oops, wait. I don't want to quit it. I want to